So welcome to It's Your Girl, Sherry Somerville, Monetize Your Influence podcast. I'm super excited to talk raw and candid about the making of the Challenge Code book. I wanted to share this conversation with you. This is more raw. Usually I'm giving you tips and tricks and inspiration, but today I want to be a little bit different because I want to break down for you how the Challenge Code book came all about. I never shared this before. This is behind the scenes of how this all came to be, because you may be thinking about using your voice and creating your own book. And so this is good coaching stuff. This is a masterclass that I'm going to share with you and how all this came about. So there's no script there, which normally isn't, but this is no script. And I think I'm going to do, this is a part 2 of 3. So the book declaration is me talking about, why I came up with the book. This is part 2 of more the process. And then we're going to have part 3 about the ending of the book, where there's a private party that we have for the book release party. That is where we're waiting to see if I get best-selling author and all that stuff. So you're literally getting behind the scenes. So let me just kind of talk about why in the book declaration I talk about why I wrote the book. To be honest with you, as I stated in the book declaration, I had a fear. I always wanted to write a book, but I had a fear, as I stated in book declaration. I've always had a fear of, from my childhood days, when I came to America, I always struggled with grammar. Because, as you know, I'm Jamaican and Chinese, and we were ruled under the British. So our English structure was always different from American structure. So knowing that we were different from American structure, I didn't want the grammar police coming after me, because from years of even having a 7-figure business, having a real estate investment business, closing different real estate property, there's always a doctor who I make more money on in my hey, you forgot an I or something. And I'm like, how I make more money than you? And then you're always trying to correct somebody. So that has always been like, I don't need to write a book. But here's the other thing. Everywhere I go, shout out to Myron Golden. He's an amazing business principal coach. And has always inspired me to say, hey, Sherry, you need to write a book. I remember going on one of his challenges that he hosts, and he was like, I'm going to tell you what you need to do, but you're not going to listen. You should write a book. And of course, it took me a while. I didn't even mention that inside of my book, The Challenge Code, and shameless plug. So I keep hearing from people, man, you have this framework that works and work for your clients, so you need to put it in a book. And when you hear people say things, you're like, God, is this a sign? Is this something that I need to do? And honestly, I wanted to write an inspirational book at first. I really wanted to write a book, but I wanted to be an inspirational book. And I kept saying to myself, I did not have the time to write the book. I kept saying, who has time? Like we make up all these excuses, but that was me. I'm like, who has time to write this book? And I kept saying, I don't have the time. And you're maybe feeling the same way as well. You want to write this book, but you don't have time. And I kept telling myself I don't, right? I just kept telling myself, when will I? And I'm going to be honest with you why I say that, because I host a challenge usually every month. So if I'm hosting a challenge and I have to market that challenge, when will I have time to write the book? But God is so funny, because a few months ago, when I was thinking about writing a book, I got really sick. So I could not host a challenge. And God sat me down and says, girl, you need to write this book now. So I didn't have a choice. So it's not one time, like it's not like one thing happened that says, yes, I need to write a book. It's just a series of things. So in part 2, there's a lot of stuff I want to focus on, but I really want to get clear, because I know there's somebody out there that's listening that has a hard on writing their book, and they're in that space where there's so much things coming up for them. There's so much thoughts that's coming up for them. So here's what came up for me. Number one, what came up for me is maybe I should hire a ghostwriter. And if writing is not my strong point, I should hire a ghostwriter. And let me tell you why I said no to the ghostwriting. One, I said no to the ghostwriting because and no disrespect to anyone who has used ghostwriting before, I knew that if I wrote it myself, there's something that writing a book and putting my thoughts on paper, it was going to pull something out of me that I didn't know that was within me. And as I started writing the book, life was lifing, that the book just started writing itself. I mean, it literally just started writing itself. I had the framework. Of course, I had the framework of how to create a 7-figure business. That was easy. But the stories of how the stories relate to each framework inside of the book, and you got to grab the book to understand what I'm saying. But the stories that are inside of the book, it wrote itself. There's my life experiences on each chapter happen, and it relates to each of the framework. And it was like I was living my truth. And let me tell you how everything comes so full 360, because I remember saying to myself that, well, where am I going to find a coach to write a book? Like, that's another thing. Like, so when I decided to say, okay, I'm going to write it, well, I first decided that I'm going to try and write it on my own, right? I'm just going to get somebody on Fiverr, right? I'm going to go cheap. I'm going to get somebody on Fiverr. That's how the thought comes up. So I started writing it, and I'm like, I realized quickly it was more than I bargained for, because a Fiverr person who's editing the book it's not intimate enough. It's not intimate enough. And that's the beauty about investing in yourself, because I invested in an ads coach. Shout out to Ashley Brock. She's also the forward on my book. She also wrote the forward for my book. And because of my investment in learning how to do Facebook ads, I found Michaela, who's also, and I'll put Michaela information in the show notes, but Michaela, I found her through Ashley. So I was like, again, more thoughts come up. I don't know if I can afford her. Money trauma, that comes up. So now the thoughts is, do I have time, if you're keeping up? And then the second thought was, can I even write this book, right? Should I hire a ghostwriter? And then the third thought is, okay, if I go with Michaela, she may be too expensive. This is all my thoughts. And again, I'm sharing this with you because as a human being who you may be thinking about doing the same thing, those thoughts comes up for you as well. It may not even just be writing a book. It may be anything you want to do. You may be want to invest in my coaching, and these same conversations are coming up for you as well. So even though what I want you to take away from this lesson, though, even though these thoughts were coming up for me, I still was taking action regardless of having these thoughts. Okay? I want you to realize that. That's a takeaway I want you to have for this. So I got with Ashley, and I love that because Ashley, my ads coach, I'm in her mastermind. And I said, Ashley, she had just wrote her book, How to Win with Paid Ads. That's an amazing book. And Michaela already had helped her with her book, which very, very clear. She already left a blueprint of how she did it. Again, that's why you invest in your coach. So she already did it. So it's kind of like a blueprint. So I was following behind her in writing my book, right? So as Michaela was, I finally built up the courage to have a meeting with Michaela, finally build up the courage. And here's how it went too. I truly believe that when you say yes to yourself, God opened up the universe and command the universe to give you everything you desire. Money, the resources, anything you need. Because once I said yes, and even though these thoughts are still coming up, how am I going to afford it? Will I have time to write it? Do I have the money to all of that? How is it going to go? Even though I was having the thoughts and still taking action, I realized every step of the way of writing the book, God will provide the resource necessary to do it. So Ashley had Michaela, who was also part of Ashley's group, as a guest speaker inside of our class one day. And I said, Michaela, I will get with you. And when I got with her, I had kind of started writing the book a little bit. The Fiverr guy had helped me kind of edit the book. It wasn't the best. So we had a meeting. I kind of show her what I had. And while I show her what I had, a month later, I got sick. I got super sick. my son's soccer team, everyone on the team, and the parents got completely sick. Now, this is how God worked, because I kept delaying Michaela. I kept telling her, and sometimes your clients do that to you. Like, they want to work with you, but they come up with all these excuses, come up with these money excuses. And again, I want to show you these things because this is how the devil works. This is how the devil uses these little minute excuses to stop you from your greatness. So I want you to recognize that when things are not of God. I want you to recognize these things when these things come up with you as well. I want you to recognize this and say, and be able to say, no, this is not happening. If you're not able to recognize this, you knock it off and say it's not. Oh, this is part of it. So once that situation happened, I got sick. And in me I was so sick, I thought I was going to die. I was laying in the bed and I could not get up. Now, I don't want to give too much away because it's inside of the book. But that illness, because I thought I was going to die, it put a fire under my ass for me to write the book. Because I said to myself, had I pass away, let me tell you how deep it is. I was so sick. The first thing I did when I get any ink of energy, I called my life insurance company. I updated my life insurance because this is how much I thought that I was going to die. And in doing so, and in understanding this of what was happening to me, I said, this cannot happen. Because had I passed away, I did not do what I was called on this earth to do. I was called on this earth to lead people to Christ, to help people walk in their purpose, for people to use their voice, to use their expertise, and I did not do my job. And that illness gave me the momentum to do after you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere else to go but top. And that was the moment I stopped playing small. I stopped being scared. That was the moment I said I stopped playing safe. I call up Michaela, and let me tell you something. The cost of what I thought it was way less than what I had in my mind. Do you see that? This is what the devil do. This is what we create, this mind of how big we thought this thing was going to be. And she helped me every step of the way. So I want you to walk with me through this. I invested in a coach. In investing in that coach, I found another coach of something that I want to do. And then I started backing off because I was playing small. Backing off. And in me backing off, I got sick. When you're not walking in your purpose, God will give your assignment to somebody else. Oh, you don't want to do what I call you to do? Oh, let me just give it to somebody else. And that's what happened with me. But I was like, God, oh, you ain't got to tell me twice. Oh, you ain't got to tell me twice. There was other things that happened, but I want to save that for the book. You got to read it to find out more of what happened. But so I got with Michaela, and she started helping me through the process and helping me get the book out. And the other part too is she said to me, hey, Sherry, she's like, are you aiming for best-selling author? Do you want to have that title? And here's the mediocre me playing it small again. Oh, no, that's okay. I don't have to have that. Why? Because inside of me, I don't think I can reach it. Because as a best-selling author, it requires you to have a certain amount of sales. And if you don't have that certain amount of sales within 24 hours of the book launching, then you won't get that title. So again, here come mediocre me again, not believing in myself. I'm going to back off again. So then she's like, you don't think you can make a certain amount of sale to get that title? Oh, no, that's not important to me. And she was like, okay. She didn't question it. Then we met again another time, and she asked the question again. But this time I was in a different space, and she asked the question again. And I said, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's go for best-selling author. Let's go for getting those sales. Not just go for it, because anyone can go for best-selling author. What I'm learning is when your book launches, you can have a book that comes out and create an ebook, and the ebook will be like $2 or $1.99. and based on $1.99, you make a sale. But Sherry, in the space that I'm in, I'm like, no, I'm going to go big and go home. I'm going to have a hardcover book. I don't want no ebook. I'm going to go all the way and get a paper book. And so this is when my confidence started building. I want you to see a pattern here. I'm having all these negative thoughts because I want to share this with you, because sometimes when I'm talking to my clients, because they see me, I'm so resilient, they're thinking I don't have these thoughts that they have. And I want to show them I have the same negative thoughts that comes up for me. I just don't open them doors and let them in my house. I don't let the thoughts sit on my chair, right? So even though I'm having these thoughts, I'm taking action anyway. So when I spoke to Michaela, I said, you know what? We're going to go big and go home. Not only are we going big and go home, we're going to also have a book release party. So am I still scared? Like we may or may not meet the sale? Yes, I 100% am. But I would be more scared had I not tried. And I wanted to just have this podcast episode to show you somebody who you see is super resilient, always putting herself out there, always doing things. I wanted to show you in the process of part 2 of creating this book launch, I wanted to show you how even though I'm having the same thoughts you may be having, I'm still challenging myself. I'm still taking action. In the last podcast we spoke about, I said, the one thing I learned is for me to create freedom and change, I have to challenge myself, and I have to challenge myself in taking action. So I want to let you know, if you don't take anything else away from this podcast and what I'm telling you, when you are trying to grow and when you're trying to do something different with your life, when you're trying to go for a higher vibration, when you're trying to go to a higher self, don't think that life is not going to be lifey. Don't think that thoughts or negative thoughts is not going to come to you. Because I have said this before and I said it again. The devil's supposed to attack you. He's supposed to. When you are trying to do something good, he's supposed to do his job. Because the devil knows that if you do what you're supposed to do, he knows that life is going to be changed. He knows what's happened when you step in your greatness, when you write that book, when you host that challenge, when you speak on stage. Oh my gosh, people not only become inspired, but life get changed. Hope, something called hope changes. Because when Michaela started speaking to me about the book, my life changed. She gave me hope. So it's the same way when you start walking in your expertise and in your purpose. So of course, if I'm the devil, they're not going to want you to do that. Of course not. Because you are a game changer. You are a thought leader. So when I say this was a big challenge for me to write my own book, this is something I've never done before. I am a speaker. I'm not a writer. So this is a new element for me. And one thing I can say, I had to become coachable. The teacher had to become the student and trust the process. I had to become coachable. I had to listen because I was in an industry, I was in a space that I'm not used to. So listening to my coach, listening to her, meeting her deadlines, listening to everything, it was something different for me. But I truly believe that learning something, going into a different industry of the book industry that I've never been in before and listening, I had to become coachable. And I think everything that I've done in the past have prepared me for this. Having a growth mindset and knowing that I had prepared my mind mentally for this, because you came on this podcast and you're listening to part 2 of my book declaration of launching a book. And I know you may be wanting to hear about the outcome, and the outcome will be in part 3, because people just want to jump to what is the result. People want to jump to that really fast. But I want you to stay in the process, because this is a process. The process is I had so much thoughts that I'm not good enough. I'm not a writer. I had so much thoughts that, can I hire a coach? I don't know if in this economy with everything going on, can I hire a coach? Should I be spending money there? There's so much thoughts that come up for me that, will people even buy a book? Can I even become a best-selling author? Am I wasting my time? Oh my God, I could be using this money for something else. When will I have time to write this? All of this stuff was coming up for me, but I want you to also understand that even though these thoughts were coming up in the process, I still was taking action every single time, because you can have a thought and you can still take action anyway. And the reason why I was able to still take action, even though I have the thought, because I stuck with the end results. And the end result for me was, the person that get this book, the person that read this book, I need to get this book into the hand of that woman that feels like she's not good enough, or feel like she's too much for other people, that feel like she don't have a space, that feel like she need to be in a higher vibration, that feel like she don't have a community. So I wasn't writing it for me. I was writing for that woman who is lost. When you write a book, you don't know where that book is going to go. Once I write it, this book is going to go everywhere. And I don't have control of where this book is going to go. It's like handing out Bible at our church. You don't know who's going to get your Bible. Your book is your own Bible. And so every time I write, it's a disservice. Miles Monroe said the richest place the richest place on earth is in the ground, is in the graveyard. It's a disservice for me to go to a graveyard and didn't put my mind in something. And that's what this is for me. You're looking at something, a legacy, not just for me, but for my son, Dylan. So even when I'm gone and I'm no longer here, somebody can get this book on Amazon when I'm no longer here. So this started the trajectory of the legacy that I want to leave behind. This started the trajectory of another income stream that my son get to benefit from when I'm no longer around. So the why of getting into women hands who don't have a space, ambitious women who feel like people think they're too much, who are high functioning women who feel like I need to be in a better space. A woman who want to make 7 figures, but around them they don't know who to talk to or where to go. I want to get in their hands. God lovers who want to get in, who believe that they can still love God and drive a Bentley, right? These type of women. You were the why behind why how I was writing it. I also want to create a revenue stream for my son. He was the why of why I was writing it. So whether I'm gone and whenever it's time for me to leave that legacy, so the why was way stronger than any thoughts that could come up in my mind. The why was way bigger. The why of me writing this book was way bigger than any thought process that I could have about not writing it. The limiting beliefs that was coming up for me, I couldn't stay there. But I want you to just understand that I have the same limiting beliefs that you may have when it comes to executing at a higher level. The difference is you don't have to stay there. I don't stay there. So this book process wasn't just, I wrote a book. I just wanted to have this episode, this raw, candid episode to talk to you right now. It's not by accident that you're listening to this. This is something that you really need to hear. Usually I'm giving you step process, but today I wanted to just kind of show you the behind the scenes of where I am and what we're doing. The book launched on Friday. By the time we wrote this, it should already be launched. And I just wanted to have this deep conversation with you and said it was a process. It wasn't easy. I had to constantly talk myself into every aspect. Now, let me talk about now that you know the mindset, let me share with you this strategy of how I did this, because again, I said this is a masterclass, and I'm always transparent, and I love to share with my community so you can duplicate success. So the first thing I did is I knew I was going to have a challenge. I knew I was going to be launching a book. So while I have the book and have the book writing, the other thing I wanted to focus on is I need people to sell the book too. And this is a lot. This is where the people miss. This is a big strategy where people miss when it comes to launching their book. I was talking to someone. I was like, "Hey, when does your book come out?" And they're saying, "Oh, it comes out May 9th." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "Well, what is your strategy?" They're like, "Oh, I'm going to go live on May 9th." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Okay, they're announcing. They don't have, that's not a launch. A launch is you have steps. You have different steps. Your pre-launch, you have a launch, and then you have a post-launch. She was just announcing, right? So this is a whole masterclass. If you getting like literally a $25,000 masterclass, I'm about to teach you this really quick. So the first thing I did, and grab your Diva notebook, your diamond pen. I'm about to teach you this really quick. So the first thing that I did is I know that I need bodies. I need people to actually launch this book too. So knowing this, I had to create what I call a pre-launch. So the pre-launch is where I need people on my email list, because by the time I launch, I need people to launch too. So I spent a good 2 months before leading up to the actual launch. I spent 2 months giving away free lead magnet to people. So on Instagram, on in-person events, I would give away free lead magnet, free how to do things, like how to host a 5-day challenge guide. So I will be giving away guide on Instagram and TikTok and these things. And then they will grab the guide. They will go to they will go on my email list. I would give that away. Then I will ramp up my podcast. I would make sure every week that I have a long form podcast, that I don't miss a day on my long form podcast. And even on my podcast, I would also be giving away free guides. So they will opt in for those guides. So with that being said, that my email list is increasing to come to my speaking event, to come to my 3-day challenge. It was a free challenge. So again, it wasn't to make money at that time. Let's be clear. You understand it? Because some of y'all are like, "Okay, Sherry, where's the money?" I want you to know there was no sale throughout this whole time. There was no sale because I had an end goal in mind, because some of y'all will miss this. I had an end goal in mind. So I literally host a 3-day challenge. Though that 3-day challenge, again, build my email list with new people coming to my email list because they're signing up for my 3-day challenge. So when they sign up for my 3-day challenge, now I got people for my lead magnet. Now I got people for my 3-day challenge that's coming in. So then I also had, if that wasn't enough, I also had people now move people to sign up for then I did a big announcement, which is today, which is the Monday before, based on when you're going to see this, the Monday before we launch. I had a big announcement today that the book is coming out on Friday. So today, now people can get on my waiting list. So we went from lead magnet, 3-day challenge, now we're at a waiting list. And guess what? People are now coming on my email, new people for my waiting list. So by the time we hit Friday, these 3 different activities now ramp me up to be able to have my sales. So they have 3 different activities, revenue activities that goes on for my book. So, because some of y'all are thinking, "Oh my gosh, Sherry, where's the revenue?" There's none. The goal of it was to build my email list, because this is what true, authentic sales look like. You build your email list. So when your book comes out on May 2nd, you have people to sell it to. You increase your sales on that day. Listen, you don't know literally what you just listened, this free gem that I just gave you. So right now, so we're in the stage of ramping up for our release of our book. And then in part 3, you have to listen to podcast part 3 when it comes out. We're going to have another podcast, and then podcast part 3 when it comes out, book declaration part 3. Because in part 3, I will reveal to you the results and how it comes out, because you're in the stage of us just ramping up our waiting list. Let me say this. Most of this was done organically. I think I spent $120 on ads. That's it. $120 on ads. Most of this was done organically. So you can do this too. So if you haven't got it yet, make sure you get it. Make sure you get the book. All right. So join me for part 3 so you can hear the results of the release of the book and the financial results and how much everything costs me. And I'll reveal that in part 3. Until next time, it's your girl, Sherry Summer Bell. Talk to you soon.